All right, we're back. I know one of our Korean commentators was missing, so there was a lot of panic in the headsets, but we found him.
Yeah,
He's
but
back.
there's still a lot of panicking going on right now, but he's
back.
back. So
He's
we're back.
That's why we were a bit startled, because we weren't sure if we were going to come back on camera or not. But we're here. We're back. And we'll see if Miracle can now come back. They're down 0-2 in this best of 5. Creative draft in game number 1. Game number 2's draft a lot more standard, but it was very much designed for lane pressure, which didn't really end up doing much for them in the late game. The keep that they got early on was kind of not really that impactful once we had the orbital BFG flying across the lane. So these were the things that we saw used by Tempest to deal with them in that second game. Question is, where are we headed for game number 3? Tempest removed Curse Hollow. They went into Dragonshire for the second game, and I wonder if they'll try to take us to a small map where macro and lane pressure and things like this isn't as useful, like maybe Tomb of the Spider Queen, where you see a lot more team fighting, and that's where the Tempest has been excelling in tonight. So I think that's probably where we head. I think we'll probably see Malfurion picked again from Tempest too, with how well we saw Hyde play it with the Twilight Dreams there.
Except for the one air Twilight Dream. that was quite questionable. Maybe he was panicking, just pressing R and Ice Block at the same time. Maybe he was 3-4 Ice Block and pressed R by mistake. Who knows?
Could be. Where are we headed? It's going to be Battlefield of Eternity. I guess a very similar situation when you talk about the 2-lane map. Not as much macro or Merc pressure that you can use to get massively ahead on this one. There's definitely macro to be discussed, but the MVP style is not going to be as powerful here.
Yep, and I like these new Miracle drafting into, also from both sides, the theme into the new patch, and of course next weekend we'll also have another patch coming in, which is kind of similar to this patch, but it will bring in some changes with the support, especially Uther. But even the Korean teams, what we see today from the draft, the feeling that I'm getting, they don't have a complete understanding of the meta. As I'm not saying I have the complete understanding of the meta, but they're drafting into a style that kind of seems like, is this going to work? Let's try it. But sometimes it works, sometimes it's not working for both of the teams. And I think Tempest is not like dominating both games that they're winning 2-0. Just at the end, Miracle is falling short. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up quite well. Like, I don't even have anything to add, but let's see what they decide to prioritize in this one. They have first pick again. Genji was the choice in game number 2. I expect that they'll consider that here. It's going to be Uther instead, though. Wasn't available in game number 2 because of the ban. So this leaves Tempest with the potential to grab Ariel first, if that's their plan.
Vala, or Malthael.
Malthael definitely is something that they are keeping in priority, because we saw it dominate this map yesterday. He just crushes the Immortal health pool.
Yeah, solo 1v4 Immortal race was not enough. They needed 5 or they needed 7 against Malthael.
Because of his percentage-based damage and the Immortals have so much health, Blizzard actually capped his trait damage on the Immortals. I don't remember the exact value, but if it actually did what it was supposed to do, it would do even more, but it's capped. So he can't. Yeah,
he will do insane damage late game, so.
All right, well, they're holding into this one. We'll see if they grab the Malthael here. Maybe Malf? Nope, Genji and Ariel. So, Omnic Ariel here, and we'll see what precisely Tempest's plan is here. They don't really put all their eggs in one basket with this. They get Genji, who's quite strong in all situations, has mobility and dive, and Ariel can pair with several different heroes coming down the road. What if Miracle just does Malthael Vala? They take Tastar away. That's another start to denying the Ariel comp.
They also grab Tassadar for the shielding. Malthael sometimes, when he goes for that racing, is very weak against some CCs, the burst damage, so giving that shield will of course give him much more space to be aggressive at the same time. And also taking Tastar away from Tempest, because Tempest may actually go into possible Vala Ariel with Tastar coming in. So that's a very good steal away pick, I would say.
I think maybe this is Grey main ban for Tempest. We have the Uther and Tassadar really empower him. When you already have Malthael, if you get Malthael and the Greymane, it's pretty insane. So that's the idea here, and looks like Tempest shares my opinion. So they will ban it away. Cho'Gall removed. Hide with a laugh. So obviously this is kind of a, I bet you won't pick Vala because we banned the Cho'Gall now, and you probably won't pick Vala because you have Genji on your team already, and you don't have Tassadar. What are you going to pick, Zarya, Vala? You know, so I think Cho'Gall was definitely being considered for Tempest on this map.
Wow, this is the world we're living in, guys. Cho'Gall is banned. And leaving that one option out, I think they have really forced Tempest into the Vala pick now. Or H82 still has his Artanis pick, so that's something else in mind that they should have. But Vala seems very weak right now against all these supports with the sustain coming out from the other side. And they're the one actually who banned Greymane. So the pair up with the Tyrael cannot happen.
I think this might just still be the Vala. It might just go down that path. Going to be Li Ming first. Still could leave the Vala pick for last. Li Ming's going to give a lot of extra poke. I'm liking this situation for Miracle already, though. We don't know what DPS they're going to run with here with a double support, but Illidan is removed. He would be the obvious choice next to Greymane, so both heroes that Miracle want are not available. I'm trying to think if they could take the Vala. I mean, it's not terrible. You have Tassadar for the shielding, the Q build strong. You win the poke race or not the poke race, but the Immortal race with Malthael with the Vala too with Q build. It's not out of the question for them to take the Vala away. And yeah, actually, when I think about it, like Tempest isn't going to take Vala anyway, but because they already have 2 DPS, we're forgetting about Genji. The OGN logo is just like tricking me there, but
it's still okay. You can just go for
Tracer. Well, this isn't what I wanted to see, but see if it's played better than what we saw from Sign yesterday.
It's a totally different setup with Tassadar and Uther coming in. Malthael can be on the other side, dealing with the Immortal, and Tracer will be a big harass. But against Genji, sometimes you do more damage onto yourself, so does have to press onto that H button a lot of the times.
I mean, other picks here for Tempest, I don't think they're going to run the Vala like I was talking about earlier because it just doesn't make sense with triple DPS. Could be a Dahaka pick here for extra lane pressure in the solo lane, bring Tyrael into the 4-man. Could be Arthas for some of the lockdown on the Tracer, very difficult to do. I think we're probably going to see Judgment Tyrael now because of the Tracer. We don't know for sure, but you wait until the recall's over, you Judgment in. Seen a lot of success with that so far. So the Sanctification support's not something they can really necessarily rely on. Tyrael can be a solo laner, so you don't need the Dahaka pick here. And they go with Abathur for the global. It's going to empower Genji. Will give a lot of vision and extra pressure on the Immortals. It's not the greatest pick ever, but this draft kind of got a little bit weird. So whose do you favor? I have to go with Miracle because they have Malthael. The Tracer is decent. Which one do you like more?
It's all up to Tracer, and I like both drafts coming in. Tempest, I think they have a decent draft against Tracer comp too.
Well, it's time. Can Tempest take this draft? Well, their most unusual one of the evening. Not the one most unusual in general. That was definitely going to Miracle. We'll see if they can make it work to close the series out 3-0, or if Miracle is bringing us to a Game 4. In blue, it is Team MVP Miracle. Down 0-2. Judy is on Muradin, Dami on Malthael, Jaehyun on Uther, Crazy moving on Tassadar, and Sniper on Tracer.
In red, Tempest, Hide on Ariel, Hunkono on Genji, Lockdown on Li Ming, Sign on Tyrael, and H82 on Abathur.
Okie dokie. Teams who have left Malthael available on this map have paid the price in HGC Phase 2 for Korea. And we'll see if this trend continues.
It's all up to Tracer. Sniper, the one holding so much of the damage of the team. He may actually go for that untouchable again because he has a lot of protection with Tastar as a secondary source of shield. Bring those stacks, look for later games, make sure you survive.
So Tastar is going up in the top lane. We've seen this lane swap quite a bit. We do sacrifice a little bit in the bot lane, but we've seen Tastar rotate with the solo laners on 2-lane maps a lot in this tournament. Even on 3-lane maps. I say this tournament, I mean phase 2. I'm so used to calling this a tournament because that's it's why mostly I cast tournaments in esports like Super League as well. But this is a league, and this is the second phase of it. But anyways, so since yesterday, realistically, going into this patch and a little bit on the first week, we saw a lot of Tastar rotating up to pressure, especially the Abathur lane, because Abathur can't really do much to defend himself. His Locusts don't really cut it. So we see Li Ming rotates up, and they are going to deal with that Malthael a little bit differently. Trying to bait the gank here with the Tyrael as well, as you can see on the minimap. The Tyrael could have come in with a symbiote, but it's like they're just not willing to commit here. Genji also rotating all the way up, so big commitments here for Tempest, but they just don't find any targets.
Yeah, they're possibly looking for the punish when they're making the rotation. They do spot Tracer, but they have to go. Are they not going for the defense? They're rushing in. They're going for the race instead this time.
Okay, it's going to have to be a really heavy commitment here for Tempest against the Malthael burn. They do get a 3K lead for the time being.
They do have a lot of poke, also with Lockdown's poke from Li Ming on the other side, but look at the edge bar going down on the red immortal down there.
Yeah, if they get zoned away like this, even slightly for a brief period of time, and Lockdown can't do his range damage, Honkono not the greatest at poking at it, then suddenly they start to lose out, as Malthael is just sitting there on his own, soloing it. Because it's an Abathur pick here, the Abathur, it doesn't make this a 5v4. It makes it like a 4.5v4. So much mobility, so much extra healing coming out from Judy. Well, this is going to be their last chance, Tempest, here to win this race. They're still slightly ahead, but MVP is going to dive. They look for the pick, and Genji is down.
The target CCs, and few CCs and the burst damage was enough. And Reflect seems to be, it was used a few seconds before maybe he had that on the cooldown, or the shift strike did not go up at all, so nothing else he could do. But Ndami soloing this.
Down it goes eventually.
That's exactly why Malthael is so strong on this map. But in other regions, there were lots of times where he actually lost over last night. So let's see how Tempest can play against this Malthael. Maybe they just went there to take off all the shield onto the Immortal for the beginning of the part, because they knew that it was going to be very hard to actually defend and win.
The weaknesses of Tempest's composition are that they don't have Malthael, first of all. Okay, we got that out of the way. They don't have a solid generator for Ariel's Hope. They don't have a high attack speed hero. They don't have a massive burst damage hero. Li Ming can generate a little bit. It's mostly been Honkono who's been the way they're trying to build it with his shurikens. He didn't even go into shuriken mastery, by the way. So they're trying to use Honkono to build that hope up. It's just not going to be consistent. So the healing that's coming out is not going to be as useful as what we're seeing from Uther and Tastar. So they've got double protection for the dive, while Malthael solos the Immortal. So there's a lot of different ways Miracle can just go in there, burst to target, because Ariel only has the one heal, doesn't have enough for the second amount of hope there. Burst to target, get that kill, and then Malthael just does his work. So Tempest is struggling. I feel like they need to get picks in the race, but how can they do that? It's going to have to be with a really well-timed Genji clone or something, or a Li Ming clone coming in. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, for the time being. And of course, Judy in the front line will just soak up damage, will heal back anytime, with his trait even. It'll be very tough. If you want to target on the Tracer, of course, you want to remove all the damage possible, but you have the double support, the shield and the heal coming in. And Tastar can just shift away anytime. Morden can jump over the wall. So your best targets are Dami or Uther. But if they overstep the line, that's a good time to punish. But whenever Li Ming and Honkono, even if they dive in with Tyrael, that will have to be after 10.
Yeah. We're still a ways away from that 10 now. With the exception of Tracer having her Pulse Bomb available. Still at level 10. Hasn't upgraded it yet. But is holding on to one right now. Faster clear here for Miracle on this camp. We'll see his Tempest rotate over and do the same. It's funny to see HA2 on Abathur. I believe this is his first time playing it ever, but he is kind of being the solo laner in the top lane with the Avatar. So I guess it's not that crazy with this composition. We would have expected Lockdown to be on it, which is more common, but he has to play the Li Ming, and HA2 won't be playing that. So could have been HA2, I suppose, on Tyrael, but what's Sign playing? It's weird to see the solo tank Tyrael anyways with this draft. That's why he gets kind of relegated to the Abathur role. All right, this is going to be MVP already going to work, but they have to dive in for this one. Dami gets caught, no escape, and down he goes.
That's the power of Genji. With the Avatar hat, I don't think he has a Swift Strike available, but he does get the heal because that's taken down at the very end.
So ends up being a 1-for-1, but that's not going to be it. No 10 here. Hyde just because allows himself to die, just stands there and dies. At the end, knowing he wasn't going to escape, a Pulse Bomb came in. So better fight here for Miracle. I really have to argue they have the better draft, and they are making it work. Even with the pick there, you had to dive so deep. Honkono did. Post 10, it's going to get a lot easier for Tempest, but until then, they are really struggling. And this is going to be a heavy shield lead because of the picks on the side of Tempest. And now MVP Miracle is just going to look to close it out. They've had some successful dives. It is in the defensive position here for the Immortal. It's on red side. So it's a little bit tougher for Miracle to actually go in with this composition. See if Sniper can start things off right.
And also, Dragon Claw chosen at 4 for Honkono.
Yeah.
He wants to do all the burst damage possible when he dives in. I don't think I've ever seen that in Korea yet.
No, we don't see that. It's unusual. Like I said, the Shuriken Mastery I think would have also been better for building hope. Like when I'm watching Crowns on Li Ming and on Genji, it feels like I'm in a solo queue game. But
here comes the dive for Dami, and he's looking to escape, but Tamus Strike onto the other side.
Guz has decent heals coming out from Uther though, and the Tastar shields, and the heavy dive is just completely countered. The peel was real. That was sick play by Miracle with the double support. Almost felt like it was a bait as he went back in there.
If Dami really chose to work, and then here comes the gang, and Tastar cannot even shift away from this.
Detainment struck immediately. That's the kill onto Judy. This is dirty. This is a bloodbath here. They actually could come back and win this Immortal now.
What? That was insane. Just looking for the play. That rotation with Tastar was a little bit dangerous because they weren't really. He didn't have any vision of Tempest, all the Tempest members, and they looked for the kill. Even though they're losing in EXP with this Immortal, they will get the lead, and they just got 10-2. Divine Storm. I thought you need more protection, but I guess not.
I like this because it can lock down the mobility of the Genji. Once the Genji is removed, all you have is Li Ming DPS against double support, the burst, especially with Tassadar to defend. The Tassadar can kind of mitigate the burst damage coming out from Li Ming if she can't get an early reset. Even without the Divine Shield, you're not protecting a heavy dive hero here, right? You might argue you could protect the Tracer, but not necessary. Now, Meltdown is going to be very useful even on the defense of this Immortal. You can see how quickly he's burning it down. But Tempest is not just going to go quietly into the fort. They are going to be very aggressive. Unfortunately, they don't find anything. And with Sanctification, the choice of Heroic, there's just no target that they can prioritize to dive in with this composition. Judgment may have allowed them to look for a pick, and all they did was get half the fort here. So even though they won the Immortal, didn't end up being the biggest impact.
Yeah, with Divine Storm, it's going to be a lot more pressure for Genji or even to Li Ming for dive in. So that's holding, because they had the threat, they're holding into the instant CC, AoE CC. Jihyun will also let his backline be super safe, along with Crazy Moving, who can also give shield for a longer time to Sniper.
They're going to continue to poke with this Siege Cap. The Detainment Strike is good. Honkono dives in. The deflect is very well timed. You're going to see the clone coming in now as well. Just want to make sure they can secure this fort. They want more, though. The heavy dive in from HA2. The deflect, he knows it doesn't matter if he dies, so just looking for the pick on a Judy. Unfortunately, unable to find it, but they will get this cannon tower for the trouble. Take about a 30% EXP lead with this move. Zabather's going to eat that soak in the top lane, so going to take an even bigger one.
They traded clone with the Avatar, so I think it's a little better for Tempest, and they got to have this early start into the camp, which they've been pushing the top lane already. And the next Immortal seems like it's going to go to top lane 2 for Tempest side. So having that early pressure onto the top lane makes it even better for them.
They're kind of setting up for that. And they're going to have this Siege Giant camp taken by Honkono. Just clearing that up now. The Fallen Shaman camp will finally clear up that fort. Looks like Tempest isn't even remotely interested in defending it. It was so low on health. And then it's going to head directly to the keep wall. So both teams having the camp, but the camp advantage definitely to Tempest with the Siege Giant camp. And that's going to help them in this longer, prolonged fight. See where the Immortals spawn, because that's actually going to be quite significant. If it's red side again, it's much more difficult for Miracle to get in there and do that Malthael damage. Nope, it is going to be the opposite, so it's the easier way for Miracle.
Diving into Uther, doing tons of damage. Can Jaehyun actually save himself? No, he does not. There's a kill, and the reset onto Genji. Gets Pulse Bomb, but perfect Crystal Aegis will save him for the time being.
That's how you do it, avoiding all that extra burst. Also, Divine Storm, if he had used it there, it wouldn't have been the best one, but it might have actually been able to turn the fight, but he was hesitant. Perhaps just wanted to have that extra healing there. If the Aegis wasn't perfect, they could have turned that fight with Uther's healing in his Redemption form. Basically would have been able to out-sustain, but good Aegis. This is not a good situation for Miracle anymore. As you can see, even with the Malthael damage, they end up losing halftime by 6K. Even on the Red Immortal being on blue side, where they had the free damage, they still weren't able to catch it up. But the respawn comes in for Jaehyun. We're on even talent tiers here. They can definitely turn this around. This is the harder one for them, though, when the Immortal does switch sides and is now on the red side.
Notice the positioning of Jaehyun. He's looking for that big move. He's diving in alone. See, if you try to do that and get yourself killed without using that storm, it's going to cost you big. See that deflect damage from Tracer's auto attack signs? Killing him some damage from the front line for the time being. The percent damages are coming in with the E every single time. Sign dives in, does have the sanctification.
Ooh, Archon is popped here very early from Crazy Moving. That's going to be unfortunate, as he doesn't have the extension of that at 20 just yet. He's going to do a little bit of extra damage, runs over and auto attacks this. They want to dive in and make this happen. They want to seal this out. Honkono's coming in, though, forcing that dimensional shift to be used here for Crazy Moving. He does go down as HA2's clone is going to help out. Another good Aegis here. That's the double. And MVP Miracle is now really struggling as Honkono pops his Dragon Blade. The heals are coming out to try to protect Judy, but the reset comes in. They'll disintegrate. It's only the heals that keep him alive, but this is now going to be a 1 Immortal for Tempest. As you said, the lane was kind of preset for that, and they go pretty much directly to the keep wall.
Yeah, because they pushed this so far, it may actually, it chooses the healthier lane, so it may actually go down. You never know.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure.
Exactly see the structures, HP on the bottom lane and the top
lane.
Well,
both are pushed, so I guess it doesn't really matter at this situation. Pretty even. It looks like top has a slight lead in health, as you can see the cannon tower here was touched by the minions, so that's why it's going to go top, but both would have been fine. Tempest takes an opportunity now to grab this keep. They have a decent amount of siege with Li Ming, who will now have 16 for Mirror Ball, and will be able to use that to poke really hard. So may look for Diamond Skin again, but less likely here.
So we see lots of situational Malthael, because does the percent damage, it's super good when he has a chance to solo dive in, but when the other team does not let him do that, when the Immortal is onto the other side, That's why Malthael is not. It's situational for, especially when you have the entire team communicating, looking for the pick, and if you have the CCs available, I think this is a very good counter, so to say.
Ooh, Crazy Moving, very, very low. Honkono knows where to look for it. Pops a Dragon Blade after he's out of the fight. Also, Crazy Moving is already gone here. And this is going to be nasty. Dami trying to do what he can here, getting his own passive armor, doing a decent amount of damage, but it's not going to be able to turn this fight around, nor will it kill the Immortal. This may be the full team wipe. Jaehyun and Judy cowering behind the core, but the push is real here. 15 minutes into the game, they're just going to go core, and it looks like they may be able to just close out this series. Judy doing what he can, doesn't even have heavy impact yet. As you see the Divine Storm coming out, Aegis to block it. Honkono looking for the kill, isn't going to get it, but they will knock the core out, and that is going to be the 3-0 win for Tempest.
What a dominant game number 3 compared to game number 1 and 2. Now with this, they had the team locked down on Li Ming, as I gotta say was much better than Honkono's Li Ming of what we saw. And H82's Avatar, though we did not really see perfectly what he was doing all the time, but it seemed like it was working a lot better when compared to when Knockdown was back in Avatar compared to the day before, and Crazy Moving seems very, very sad on the screen.
Yeah, Bible thumps, get him out for this guy who had some really good decision-making in draft. I feel like the drafts that Miracle brought to this were really well thought out. Like, they were very much prepared in advance, and they were really cool drafts. The intelligence to ban Cho'Gul, I really thought in Game 3 they had the better draft, but again, as you were saying, when the Immortal went red side where they had to invade with Malthael, it was a lot tougher. That's the risky moment, and they were punished for it. Jaehyun also taking Divine Storm didn't really get them a whole lot of value. I like the pick. I would have personally preferred the Divine Shield. What I mean to say is I don't think it was wrong of him to choose it, but he couldn't capitalize on making that happen when he wanted to. Like, he wasn't able to get a big Divine Storm. It was so obvious to Tempest every time he moved in what he was trying to do, so they was disengaged away from him, so it got a little bit tougher there.
Yeah, I think he should, not just to engage the fight in the front line as a support. You can stay on the back, wait until Genji dives in, and then use it. Make sure your entire team is ready for it, call for it before, and then insta-blow Genji. Then maybe you can turn the team fight over. But instead, he chose to be on the front line. He wanted to make the fight happen. That's another way of using it, but it did not really correspond perfectly with the teammates.
So, who's your MVP today? What do you think?
I think the hidden MVP is Sign, but Honkono, when first of all, he was on Lee Ming. I think it was the first time I've seen with my own eyes competitively Honkono being on
since
Lee Ming.
2015, yeah. He hasn't played it since then.
I want to see Honkono. He's also a very good talker on camera too.
I think I would choose Sign with you, but I think Honkono is up there. Lockdown played well. The HA2 is definitely, in my eyes, not deserving of MVP tonight, but we'll see who they choose. Feels like a Honkono, but I'm hoping for the Sign, for my own personal greedy Sign voice listening needs. I don't know where I'm going with this. Just want to hear some from Sign. All right, we're gonna have an interview. It's for you, G-Clef, to translate. It's actually Lockdown.
오늘 승리 진심으로 축하드립니다.
Congrats, Lockdown.
3대5로 깔끔하게 이기셨는데
It was a clean
2대5로
3-0 win.
이기고 있을 때 기분이 좀 어떠셨나요?
How are you feeling at the moment, and how you feel right now?
말아야 되겠다는 생각밖에 안 들었어요.
아, 어제처럼?
네.
어제 어떤
I
기분이었어요?
was just thinking that we
경기를
we
2대5로 이기고
could not
있다잖아요.
get caught off guard today.
이제 방심했다고는 생각은 안 했는데.
I don't think we were off guard
네.
yesterday.
이제 게임 플레이도 그렇고 이제
Our gameplay and also
저희 팀 경기랑
the coordination.
안 맞았던 그런
It wasn't really
경기력 같았어요.
like the draft and everything really didn't fit together. It feels like we had wrong shoes in our feet.
나도 저기
Yeah,
인터뷰 한번
those
해보고
wrong
싶다 이런
Madonna
생각이
shoes.
보지 않으셨어요? 오늘 이제 하셨는데 뭐 하시고 싶은 말씀이 따로 있으시다면?
아니요, 저는 인터뷰 하는 거는 막 그렇게 좋아하지 않아서 사실 게임 시작할 때도
I don't really like being interviewed too much.
다른 건 안 하고 그냥 게임만 하면 좋겠다라고 생각을
But
했어요.
I always wish that I can
인터뷰는
only
좀
play
부담스러워요?
games.
하면은 하는데
예.
이제 좋아하진 않아요.
Of course,
아,
when I get called for the
형이
interview,
해설하는 것도 막
I would do it,
봤었잖아요.
but I don't really
본인도 막 그렇게
I don't really like
와서
raise my hand
하고
for
싶은
the
생각 같은
interview.
거 없나요? 욕심 같은 거?
그때 저 게임하고 있어서 해설하는 걸 못 봤어요.
아, 관심이 별로 형이 어떻게 사는지 별로 관심 없어요?
You don't really care about your
네.
brother, as Hyde was the guest commentator for
제가 할
the MSG
제가 할
for Korean
거를 이제
cast.
먼저 하는
He said
그런
he
경기라서.
was playing games, so he just didn't catch it.
Yeah, he didn't catch any of it.
아,
자 그러면 이제 지난 시즌 이제 홍코너 선수와 함께 하셨는데 이제 MVP 미라클을 이제 이겼는데 오늘 좀 소감이 어떠십니까?
Of course, how does it feel to beat MVP
오늘
Miracle, the
경기는
big
이제 무조건
contender
이겨야
for you
된다고
guys?
생각을 해서 기분은 좋아요.
기분 좋고.
되게 좋아요? 지금 행복한 거 맞죠?
It doesn't feel like he's too happy, but he's super happy, guys,
저
right now.
아바트로 인터뷰 하나
He's
질문
smiling.
들어왔는데
That's how he's
그게
happy.
그대로 읽겠습니다. 팀원 중 오더를 잘 안 듣고 멋대로
Is
플레이하는
there
성향이 강한 선수는 누구인가요?
which player is the one that does not listen to shot
약간
call?
좀 자기 좀 주관적으로 판단하고
It seems like there's already an answer to the question, but
I think we all know the answer to this question.
굳이 뽑으면은
I'm not
to
gonna
pick
say
one.
네,
아, 왜요?
이제 부를 때 나 이거 하고 있으니까 안 된다고.
아,
오!
아 5명이 4명 얘기해도 난 여기서 이걸 하고 있기 때문에 그거 안 돼. 이렇게.
Oh, I
근데
missed it.
보통은 이제 싸움 한타 같은 거 열릴 때 오라고 하면 이거 밀고 갈 거라고
네.
얘기를 하고.
He might not have-
I
he
think
might
it's
not
high. I
actually-
think it could have been high. I missed it,
I
but
don't know if he
이제
actually said a name. I think he might have just said that whoever it is the guy who
나머지는 성격이
doesn't
이렇게 맞춰주는
doesn't
성격이라서.
listen.
예.
So he says he's doing something else. He's like,
굳이 따지면 저거
he's
하지
always
않을까
doing something else
생각해요.
when the other fool calls for it. He's like, he always says, "No, I'm doing this, so I can't go now."
이
Yeah.
부분 이제 다음 주에 이제 마이티하고 또 경기가 있단 말이에요.
And up
어떤
next,
식으로
you have
좀 준비를
your verse
하실
up against
예정이세요?
Mighty next
하실
weekend.
생각이세요?
How are you gonna prepare for the match?
일단은 아무래도 분석해가지고 이제
First of all, we need to
플레이 준비하는 게 제일
analysis.
맞다고 생각을
We
하고
need to
있어요.
study them.
네. 머리 자르시고 좀 마음에 드세요?
How do you like your new hairstyle?
근데 뭐 여름이고 하니까 시원하고
Oh,
좋네요.
it's summer and it's very hot,
정말
so
빠져드는 이런 정석이
of course I had to
있는
cut my hair.
그러게요. 자 지금 이제
I swear
락다운
that's
선수
what he
마지막으로
asked him.
이제
It's like-
시청자분들이나
I swear
이제
that's what he said.
팬분들에게 마지막 하고 싶은 말씀이 있으시다면요?
Are there any last word shoutouts?
저희도 이제 항상 이기고 싶고 그런 좋은 경기를 보여드리고 싶으니까
Of course, we always
응원
want to win
부탁드리-
and bring you the best games, of course, for you guys. So
오늘
we'll
말씀
do our
축하드리고
best in the
승리
upcoming
다시 한번
matches.
축하드리겠습니다.
no one's ever said that in a
만나요,
Korean
인터뷰에서.
interview before.
I can close my eyes, oh, it doesn't really
자, 그럼
matter. I
오늘
can
첫
close
번째
my
경기
ears
결과
and
다시
still
한번
translate the
만나보도록
last one every single time. But that was lockdown dominant performance, as you can see on the screen. The result is here.
Well, 3-0 for Tempest. Not a shocking result, but the 3-0
I would
actually.
say
the
it's shocking.
The
with
3-0 doesn't
3-0.
really show the closeness of the games and the intelligent drafting coming out from Miracle. So I feel like if you go back and look at it, like it felt like it was 60-40 Tempest, not 100% 0. You know, when you look at the 3-0, it looks like they crushed him one-sided, but it was actually quite close with the drafting that we saw. Pretty unusual for Miracle, especially the draft on Cursed Hollow. But that is going to do it for our first best of 5 of the night. When we come back, we're going to have Raven up against Mighty. Should be a good series, so don't go anywhere unless you're going to go get a snack or get a soda or something like that. But leave the Twitch stream open. We'll be here when you'll be here when we get back. See you then.